Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashthaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Raishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 20. Zoom. Mine. Yam manyase matuleyam. Yam manyase matuleyam. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Akaroho sachivam dutam. Akaro sachivam dutam. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Yam manyase matuleyam. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Akaro sachivam dutam. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Yam manyase matuleyam. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Akaro sachivam dutam. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Yam manyase matuleyam. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Akaro sachivam dutam. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Akaro sachivam dutam. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Yam manyase matuleyam. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Akaro sachivam dutam. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Yam manyase matuleyam. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Akaro sachivam dutam. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Yam manyase matuleyam. Priyam mitram suhrittamam. Akaro sachivam dutam. Sauhridad atha sarathim. Synonyms. Yam, the person. Manyase, you think. Matuleyam, maternal cousin. Priyam, very dear, mitram, friend, suhrit tamam, ardent well-wisher, akaroho, executed, sachivam, counsel, dutam, messenger, sauhridat, by goodwill, atha, thereupon, sarathim, charioteer, O king. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation with repetition. O king, that personality whom, out of ignorance only, you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Purport. Lord Sri Krishna, although acting as the cousin, brother, friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., of the Pandavas, was still the supreme personality of Godhead. Out of his causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees, he performs all kinds of service. But that does not mean that he has changed transcendental Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnane Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So after having immersed ourselves yesterday in the wonderful festivities of Govardhan Puja, we are getting yet another opportunity to take a dip in the limitless ocean of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's a very nice verse today, with a very powerful, although it is short, a very, very powerful purport. So let us try to see what we can understand from this. The verse is Yam Manyase Matuleyam Priyam Mitram Suhrittamam Akaroha Sachivam Dutam Sauhridad Atha Sarathim. Yam is referring to the person, that person who, Yam. Manyase, you think, Matuleyam, that is maternal cousin, Matulan, Bhratran, just comes in first chapter of Bhagavad Gita also. Priyam Mitram Suhrittamam. So Priyam is very dear, Mitram friend, and Suhrittamam, ardent well-wisher. We have seen this kind of a word before in Bhagavad Gita also, where Krishna is describing the knowledge that he is about to describe in the 9th chapter as Guhyatamam. So that Guhyatamam, most confidential. And here Suhrittamam, ardent well-wisher. There's a lot of emotion packed into that word. Sometimes because when we are trying to see this word-to-word meanings, somewhere that power punch or the emotional content is sometimes can be lost. We might not really receive it. So it is an opportunity here to understand the emotional force behind this word, Suhrittamam, ardent well-wisher. Perhaps I should say ardent well-wisher, then maybe. But because we don't see the person in face-to-face, when you're talking face-to-face, there is a body language that comes along with the words, and that helps us understand. And sometimes when we read that the picture does not form right in the mind because we're not familiar with the language. We're neither familiar with Sanskrit nor are we very good with English. And therefore, sometimes it can be difficult for us to understand this impact of these words. But we have heard from the lectures and classes of other devotees how when the ninth chapter is being described, and we have heard this many, many times, most confidential knowledge. There is confidential, more confidential, and most confidential. It is the ninth chapter, exactly in the middle of Bhagavad Gita. It's the exact center, and is the most confidential knowledge is being given. So here, Suhrittamam, ardent well-wisher, Akaroho, Sachivam. Sachivam is counsel, and I'm not sure if perhaps you might have heard of the word counsel with respect to law. Counsel, I'm the counsel for defense. They'll say counsel. So counsel is sometimes we think of them as an attorney or a lawyer. But here, counsel is an advisor, a person who's giving good counsel, important counsel, and advice to being given to whom? To Arjuna. And who is Arjuna? Arjuna is a Kshatriya, he's an administrator. So what kind of counsel is Arjuna getting? He is getting counsel from Krishna on all matters, including matters relating to administration. So in all matters of his life, and there is a similar word in governance, Sachivam, from the Sanskrit word. There is a Hindi word relating to governance and administration. Does anyone know? Sachiv. And there is a place where the Sachiv happens, and that is called Sachivalaya, or Secretariat. It is a very high-ranked governing body. It's a body that, or an institution that gives advice to the government on very important matters regarding the administration, policy, framing the policies, what to do when, how to do it, and even helps in removing obstacles in carrying out those policies. Let's say there is some government agency or wing of a government that needs to carry out some policies, and there are some obstacles in that. Maybe there are conflicts between government agencies. So the Secretariat or Sachivalaya, it resolves those obstacles and conflicts and makes and smoothens the process of executing the government policies. But it also helps in framing the government policies and provides general guidance and counsel. So Sachivam is a very, very, very crucial role, especially to a person who is in the ruling, who's a Kshatriya. Dutam, messenger, Sauhridat, goodwill. O king, that personality whom out of ignorance only you thought to be your maternal cousin, your very dear friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, etc., is that very personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Let us look at this purport. This purport has some wonderful, wonderful sections here. Lord Sri Krishna, although acting as the cousin, next sentence. Out of his causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees, he performs all kinds of service. But that does not mean that he has changed his position as absolute person. To think of him as an ordinary man is the grossest type of ignorance. If you look at this purport, there are many striking points that are being discussed. Let us look at some of them one by one. But before we go into that, I want to show you this image, and I'll come back to this image a little later. Just look at this image. I think many of you might have seen this image. It is it's a 100-year-old, shows an optical illusion. And there are two images that can be seen in this. There are two things that one can see. Most people will see first one thing, and then when you look very, very hard, and when you're shown the other drawing, you can sometimes see the other part. And I'll come back to what this is a little later. But for now, just remember this image. And if I don't come back to it, please remind me. Okay. So first we will look at this portion, the last line of Prabhupada's purport. Usually, as you all know, Prabhupada's purport, the last line and the first lines, they pack a punch. So let's look at what this last line says. To think of him as an ordinary man is the grossest type of ignorance. To think of Krishna, who is still the supreme personality of Godhead, even though he's the supreme personality of Godhead. But because he's playing these roles, cousin, brother, friend, well-wisher, counselor, messenger, benefactor, all of these roles are played by ordinary people in our daily lives. In our own family, we have our relatives, parents, siblings, and often we find them to be well-wishers, ardent well-wishers. And but in this, so it's very easy for someone to think that, oh, he's my brother, he's my cousin, so naturally he's my well-wisher. That's quite easy to fall into the trap. But here, Bhishma Deva, or rather Prabhupada in the purport, is saying that to think of him as an ordinary man is a grossest type of ignorance. There is one more place where Krishna himself says to think of him as an ordinary man is foolish. And let us look at that verse. In Bhagavad Gita, it comes in chapter 9. Avajananti mam mudha manushim thanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. So here the word mudha is used. Avajananti mam mudha. So not knowing my higher transcendental nature, fools deride me. So the word mudha is referring to fools. Fools deride me when I descend in my human form. They do not know my transcendental nature. Param bhavam ajananto. Mama bhuta maheshwaram. So param bhavam ajananto means they do not know my transcendental nature. And mama bhuta maheshwaram, that translation is Supreme Lord of all that be. Everything that we see. Everything. Supreme Lord of all that be. And this, not knowing this, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. So Prabhupada gives this paragraph in the purport. Let's just look at these couple of lines. It's a longer purport. I'm just reading this 2 or 3 lines here. From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, and Prabhupada's referring to the 9th chapter here, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The personality of Godhead, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation, cannot be a human being. Yet, there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as is confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord. So, Krishna himself is saying that it is grossly foolish to think of him as an ordinary man. But why is there a need for Krishna to say this, even 5,000 years back? Because even 5,000 years back, when Krishna was personally present, this was happening. There were persons considering Krishna as an ordinary person. In fact, when Krishna was personally present, there were very few who knew his transcendental position. Very few persons that knew. So he has spoken the Bhagavad Gita and he has made it black and white about what his position is. Supreme Lord of all that be. This includes all the planets, all the galaxies, the stars. That is the complete material manifestation. It includes all the living entities, the people, the plants, the beasts, and all the devatas, all the demigods, right up to Brahma, Lord Shiva, everything. And all the people and all the living entities are included in the Supreme Lord of all that be. And so that he has made it very, very clear. And yet, even today, even when we take to Krishna consciousness, we sometimes have these lingering doubts about the position of Krishna. And these are remains of our past atheistic or Mayavadi life. Because all of us, if you see all over the world, the dominant philosophy that is there today. What is the dominant philosophy? The dominant philosophy is eat, drink, make merry. Hedonistic philosophy. What happens tomorrow? We'll see tomorrow. As far as today is concerned, let us enjoy the day. Let us enjoy our senses to the maximum. Who knows what will happen to us when we grow old, when we die? Nobody has seen that. Although we see all around us, persons are getting old. And no doubt they were young at one point. But because we have so much confidence in our youth and the eternality of our youth, that day we think will never come, even though they are living right amongst us. But we think we will not grow like that. They are old people. They've always been old like that. They're probably born old. They're probably born old. We'll never be like that. But what happens after death? Even if you ask any scientist of today, popular scientist, those who speak of, who bring science to popular culture, and who are always constantly in the media, and they're giving various interviews, reels, Instagram posts. And there are many such persons. And they're trying to do their part to impart knowledge into the people. But even if you ask such a person, first of all, they don't address this question of what happens after death. They don't directly address it. But when you force them and you put them on a spot and say what exactly happens, they would say, we don't exactly know what happens at death. But what we know is this. And they would say, oh, matter, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We'll go back, body is recycled. But then, to have a subsequent conversation, okay, then what is the use of all your scientific discoveries? What is the use of wanting to go to the moon? What is the use of all these things? There is no answer to that. They'll say, oh, that is philosophy. I'm here to talk about astrophysics. I'm here to talk about relativity. I'm not here to talk about philosophy. Deflecting that question. So, this is the position of the leaders of the society, people that we look up to. The younger generation looks up to these people as thought leaders, people that we should aspire to become. This is what our children, our younger generation, our youth, and even intelligent, those who consider themselves intelligent among all age groups, think. This is the philosophy. And because this philosophy is so deeply ingrained, there is a large part of us, even when we take to Krishna consciousness, there is a very large part of us that actually doesn't completely accept the conclusions of Bhagavatam. Does not accept. And because of that, we don't fully hear what is being spoken. And I'll come to that part in a minute. And how that hearing is so crucial to the very problem we are trying to solve. But because we are not able to do that, Krishna is making it very, very explicit, and Prabhupada takes every opportunity to repeat this statement without holding back. To consider Krishna to be an ordinary person is the grossest kind of ignorance. Now let us look at another point which has been made in this purport, where Prabhupada is saying, out of his causeless mercy and favor of his unalloyed devotees, he performs all kinds of service. But that does not mean that he has changed his position as the absolute person. So if Krishna is not an ordinary person, he is a supreme personality of Godhead. And here is being described as, his position is being described as the absolute person. So this absolute person phrase, this doesn't occur too frequently. Usually it will be absolute truth and personality of Godhead. And sometimes you'll hear Prabhupada say, absolute truth is a person. And that was in his poem as well, right? Glorification of his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Prabhupada said, absolute truth is a person thou hast proven. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he is absolute truth. So this word absolute truth, sometimes a little confusing. It's not very clear. What exactly is absolute truth? Because we all know truth. We use that word in our everyday language. Tell me the truth. Is there prasadam left or not? Absolute. What is absolute truth? So, to understand absolute truth, it sometimes helps to understand the contrast. And here, Prabhupada is bringing out the contrast. He performs all kinds of service, but that does not mean that he has changed his position, right? That does not mean. Why? So, what does it mean? It means that normally, if you look at the activities that are described in the previous lines, somebody may think, oh, he's an ordinary person. No, he's not an ordinary person. He is absolute truth. So that means he's trying to show the contrast. This drawing out of contrast is not accidental. Actually, this drawing out of contrast is a very promise of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the description of absolute truth as distinct from relative truth. And let us just see the exact verse in which this is said. In the very beginning, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, second verse. Dharma projita kaitavo atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayon moolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Krimva Parairishwaraha Sadyo Hridya Vardhyate Atra Kirtibhik Susrushubhistakshanat. So here the second line, if you see, Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Moolanam. This in the translation, Vastavam Atra Vastu. This is absolute truth as distinguished. If you see the translation, let me read the full translation. Dharma projita kaitavo atra. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. So materially motivated religious activities are kaitava dharma. Dharma projita kaitavo. So that kaitava dharma is the first line that we just read. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth which is understandable by Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam, those devotees who are fully pure in heart. Then Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam. Highest truth, the highest truth is reality, distinguished from illusion. Shivadam, for the welfare of all. So this part, the highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion. So what is reality and what is illusion? This understanding is the highest truth. If somebody can understand this part, that is the highest truth. And that is what Bhagavatam is trying to make us understand. It's trying to educate us in this matter. And therefore this contrast is being drawn that, look, Krishna is performing these activities that appear to be ordinary. But that does not mean he has changed his position to become ordinary. No, his position always remains absolute. So what exactly is this distinction, reality versus illusion? For this, we need to understand a little bit more what is relative truth versus absolute truth. We can also think of relative truth as dependent truth. Dependent. For example, this table here. If I were to say, this table is here in this temple hall, is this statement true or false? What would you say? True? True. Statement is true, right? Table is there. Table is here. And no. But let me ask you this question. What if this same question were asked 18 months back? Or 15 minutes back? Because table, or half an hour back, this table was there. Right? It was not here. Now this table is here. But half an hour back, the table was there. And 1.5 years back, this temple hall itself was not there. This table was not here. It was not even perhaps made. So the table is here is true conditionally. It is true relative to time. In this particular time, it is true. At some other time, it's not true. Now, what that means is that this table is here, the statement is true dependent on some other statements. If I say that currently the time, the date is November 3rd, 8:43 a.m. Eastern Time, if I make this statement, and then now I say, at this time is the table here. Yes, the answer is yes, because the previous statement, depending on the previous statement, the second statement is true. But if I were to say that the current time is 8 a.m. Eastern Time on November 3rd, 2024, if I were to say that, and then say, is the table there? Answer is no, it's not there. So that means a truth is dependent on other truths. That's called a relative truth. I am Balaram Anuja. I am having these identities. I'm a male. I am brown skinned. I am Indian American. All these statements that we make, these identities that we have, deep rooted identities, and some identities we acquire with time. Not every identity is given, comes from birth. Sometimes we join institute, educational institute, elite educational institute that only selects, hires the best of the best of the best. And then what happens? We get identified with that institute. I'm a student of such and such institute, Shrewsbury High School, or Worcester College, best of the best of the best, Shrewsbury Public High School, right? Or WPI, or MIT. So we become identified. This is not an identity that existed prior to us joining that institute. It came after that. But the day that that event happened, the day we joined that school or college, that identity becomes extremely strong. Even though it was not there a day before, it becomes very strong. Similarly, I'm married, I'm single, I'm this or the other. Such relations which are acquired with time. I'm a parent. So those are those identities. Also, they are acquired with time. But once acquired, they become very, very deep rooted to the extent that we believe in it so much that becomes part of us. We're not even, and all our activities are carried out in relation to that identity. And therefore, we look at everything with that same lens that, oh, I am also real, this body is real, my identities are real, Krishna is also real, Krishna is also. So, because when we see Krishna, even though we may say Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, we may say like that because we've read that in the books and we've heard it many times. We repeat it. But in our heart, we have not accepted it. We have not accepted it. Because if we had accepted it, our activities would be very, very different. Our struggle for existence, prakriti sthani karshati, that struggle for existence and the anxieties that we experience is a proof that we have not accepted it. If anybody here can say that, no, I have accepted Krishna, how can you say I have not accepted? Then I would ask you to reflect on this question. Do I feel anxiety at times? Anxiety for my preservation, anxiety for my security, anxiety for my safety, anxiety for my sustenance. If, even for children, even for those whose every need is taken care of by their parent, they cannot say that I'm free of anxiety. Because from very childhood, the society is teaching children how to be anxious. What are you doing here? How come you are so relaxed? Be anxious. Don't we teach our children this? How can you be completely free of anxiety like this? Go study. You got an exam tomorrow. How come you are so carefree? Be anxious. Be anxious. Be anxious. This is the message that's coming to us from all the direction from our childhood. So how come we will not be anxious? As good students, we have learned how to be anxious. But that anxiety is happening. Why? Because the society is saying, you are on your own. I am not here to protect you for all my life, all your life, all my life, all your life. For my life, I'll be here maybe. But your life, I won't be here. One day I'll have to pass on. Then who'll take care of you? You have to fend for yourself. Oh, I have to fend for myself. Oh, there is nobody to take care of me. Oh, I have to work hard to earn a living. Anxiety. Anxiety. That anxiety is a proof that we have not accepted that Krishna is Goptrutve Varanam. What are the um, the steps of surrenderer. Hmm? Rakshishyati iti vishwasaha. So the vishwasa, the faith, the confidence that Krishna is my protector, it's not there. Goptritve iti varanam, the confidence that Krishna is my provider, it's not there. We think that our company or the job, that is the provider. That is the, yes, the company that is giving you the salary, the boss, the managers and other, I was about to say senior devotees, the other people in the company that one has to pander to, or by whose good graces, I should say, not the right word, but that's the term used in corporate world. One's growth and promotion in the company is assured. They are not the providers. All of that arrangement is actually happening by Krishna, but we have not accepted it. And that's why it is very important to deliberate on this distinction between relative truth and absolute truth, because we are living in the relative world and we are completely immersed in the relative world. We have not seen and we have not accepted Krishna as the absolute truth at all. The difference between a man and a chimpanzee, according to modern scientists, as per the body structure and the DNA. Anybody can tell? Anybody knows what is the difference between a man and a chimpanzee from a DNA perspective? So according to the modern science, they say that the body is made up of cells. And in the cell there is a nucleus. And then there are chromosomes. Right? And the chromosomes apparently, they are thought of as a very important factor that determines how that organism exists and behaves. And the human body, the human cell, and versus the chimpanzee, there is only a difference of 2 chromosomes. Out of how many? I'm not sure exactly how many, but some 32, something like 32 chromosomes, or 23? 32. 23. Okay, she is the bio student here. What is the 23 or 32? 23? Okay. So it's not a very large number. It's not like, out of 40,000, only 2 difference. It's not like that. But those chromosomes make a very big difference. So only 2 chromosomes are different between chimpanzee and human beings. And yet you can see the level of difference in cognitive understanding. A chimpanzee can come to Bhagavatam class but won't understand anything, right? Won't be able to sit still, cannot understand, cannot hear. Interest is not here. So chimpanzee can, however, comprehend many things. If you give there is an experiment performed where you can put several boxes in a room and hang banana from the ceiling. And what can the chimpanzee do? The chimpanzee can arrange the boxes, climb up on top of them, and reach to the banana. So it can plan. A chimpanzee can plan. It can figure out that, oh, there's a banana, and there's no way for me to get to it. Oh, there are these boxes. If I can stack them up, then I can climb on top of them, and I can reach the banana. So for a banana, chimpanzee knows how to stack boxes, right? So that's not a very advanced skill. Even a chimpanzee has it. But just 2 chromosomes, and look at the difference in what a human being can do. There's a big difference. All this, the buildings that you see, the spacecrafts, the vehicles, even the destruction of the environment, whatever we do, all the heavy, big scale activities that human beings can perform, chimps cannot perform that, right? So there is a popular scientist by the name Neil deGrasse Tyson. Have anyone heard of him? Neil deGrasse Tyson? Yeah. So this gentleman comes a lot on various media channels and provides his commentary on various aspects of physics and astrophysics, etc. And so he says that, and this is a scientist, well-renowned scientist, popular scientist, you can say. May not be I'm not sure exactly whether he's not a Nobel Prize winner or anything like that, just a popular scientist. So he says that if the difference between chimps and humans is just 2 chromosomes, is it very difficult to comprehend that in the universe there could exist another species with 2 chromosomes more than us, in such a way that to them we are like chimps? Is it very difficult to consider that? It's possible. It's certainly possible. So for somebody to think that we are the most intelligent species, that we can understand everything that is, that we can exactly understand who is Krishna. That is not necessary. That it's not necessary. In fact, it's not possible. And this scientist himself says that it is very, 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 very possible that we may never be able to understand exactly what this universe is, how it functions, how it was created, what is this atom, what exactly are these subatoms, which has got a structure. Put a microscope, you can see. You can see, put another powerful microscope, you can see. And go on going, putting microscope after microscope, you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're bewildered. Cannot understand ordinary matter. So what is the hope for us to understand intellectually what exactly Krishna is? Who is Krishna? What is the position of Krishna? And because we cannot understand intellectually like that, therefore it's very important that we understand from hearing. And in this verse that we just saw, Susrushubhi Stachanat, there is a mention of Susrushubhi. One has to be anxious to hear. Anxious to hear. And this anxiety that we always have for our own safety, if we can transfer that towards anxiety of hearing about this actual provider, in reality who the real provider is, then we can understand absolute truth. Because there exists an absolute truth. Just because everything here is relative does not mean that there isn't absolute truth. And if we were to open our hearts and hear a little bit, make a sincere attempt to hear, then Bhagavatam has the answers that everything that we see here, the cause of all causes, there is such a cause. Janmadyasya yataha. Janmadyasya yataha. From which everything comes. And that is a person. That cause, Janmadyasya yato anvayad italatas abhigya swarat, that person is cognizant, abhigya, swarat, and is independent. He has no other cause. And that is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That is the person. And once you know that this is the cause, then what happens? Om Namo Bhagavate. Immediately one understands this position that I am coming from him. That means I am part of him. That means I am also absolute. That is my original nature. If I am absolute and he is the whole, he is the source, that means I am meant to serve him. Just as this hand is part of this body, is meant to serve the body. Similarly, if I am part of Krishna, if I am emanating from the absolute truth, if I am emanating from the absolute truth, that means I am dependent on that absolute truth. I am not independent. But he has no origin, and because he has no origin, he is independent, I am dependent, so what is my role? The servant. I am a servant. So this knowledge, that if somebody can develop this knowledge, then what happens? Tapatrayon moolanam. All his miseries are at once, they go away. So this part, I'll skip through this over the lack of time. Yeah. So if you see, just ignore the highlighted part for now. Out of his causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees, he performs all kinds of service, but does not mean that he has changed his position as an absolute person. So this absolute person, this knowledge that is being given to us is so powerful that it uproots all the threefold miseries. And that is the causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees. If you look at the next part, his causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees, that is being mentioned here. Of course, there are innumerable instances of his wonderful reciprocation of pure love with his devotees. Right with Arjuna, he was a charioteer of Arjuna. And there are descriptions of this as well in Bhagavatam. Prabhu often quotes them. But here I would just say, based on what we've discussed so far, the very fact that he has incarnated as Bhagavatam for us, so that our threefold miseries may be taken away. What can be more merciful than that? That here, sitting here in this town of Shrewsbury, in the state of Massachusetts, where we had no hope of being extricated from our threefold miseries, but we have a chance because the Supreme Lord has incarnated as Bhagavatam, so that we may understand this difference and between reality, between relative truth and absolute truth. And by this understanding, our threefold miseries, and what are the threefold miseries? In English? Inflicted by oneself, inflicted by others, inflicted by forces beyond our control. So these three kinds of miseries that we are always subjected to, which is what we are trying to mitigate. All of our life, our goal of life is to mitigate these miseries. And here is a way to do that. And what can be a bigger mercy, bigger display of mercy for us directly is being coming to us. So that is the position and the causeless mercy of the Lord, that not only and favor upon his causeless mercy and favor upon his unalloyed devotees, he performs all kinds of service. But even for us, we are not unalloyed devotees. We're barely devotees. We are what to speak of unalloyed. And look at his causeless mercy for conditioned people like us. So there are many more aspects here, but but we are out of time. I would just say one last thing, and with that I'll stop. You see here two underlined words: although acting as his cousin, brother, friend, etc., was still the supreme. So there is one more place where this construct happens: although and still, and that is the verse that I just skipped over here. Ajo api san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adhishthaya sambhavami atmamayaya. So there is ajo api, so this is although. And in the translation, this construct of although and still comes. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So Krishna doesn't have a need to appear. It's not that he is forced to appear like we are forced to be born. We have no choice. But Krishna is appearing out of his sweet will, out of his causeless mercy. And that, that, is, that is the part that we have to understand, is that he's not obligated to be here as Radha Damodar in this temple. He's not obligated to be. Just because some sculptor carved a deity in some form and somebody gave the materials to construct this temple, he's not obligated to be here. We have not manifested Krishna here through any of our efforts. Rather, Krishna has appeared here out of his causeless mercy. He's coming in the deity form. He's coming externally as Acharya, and he's coming in the book as Bhagavatam. So all this is a causeless mercy of the Lord. And our part, what is it that we have to do? It is the most simple and yet proves to be the most difficult for us. Sushushubhi Satshanat. We have to simply be anxious to hear this message and try to understand what is the position of Krishna, what is being described in Bhagavatam. Then Sadhyo Hridi, immediately, very soon, if somebody is truly anxious, then Tapatriyon Mulatam, it happens Sadhyo, immediately it can happen. But it's not happening for us. Why? Because we are lacking in the department of Susrushubhi Satshanat. We are lacking in the department of anxious hearing. So we have been blessed to have the series of Kartik meditations in the evenings and a series of festivals as well. So let us take advantage of these opportunities and try to refine our anxiety, redirect our anxiety of existence. That I'll stop here and see if you have any questions. But I knew I'll forget. That's why I put thank you. Yeah, does anyone remember? Anyone has seen this? Yeah, Mataji, what are they? Old lady. So everybody, how many of you saw, when you saw this picture, saw the young lady first? Young lady? Yeah, I also saw young lady. Anyone did not see any lady at all? How many of you did not see any lady in this? Yeah, no ladies. Yeah, very difficult to see ladies. Yeah. No. Okay. So you see here, now can you see a young lady now that I'm mentioning? No? See, there is a feather, like Krishna's peacock feather. There's a feather there. And then there is his hair. And there is some kind of a hood or something. And there's a face here. There is one eyelashes that you can see. There's a nose. And the lady is turning away. You can see these are the cheeks, I guess. So this is a young lady. How many of you see an old lady in this? Yes. We saw old lady. First, did you see old lady? Did you see old lady first? No. Now you can see. Okay. So how many of you now that I've said this, how many of you can see an old lady in this? No. There's training. Everybody's training. Where is the old lady? I can't see old lady. Come on, I can't see old lady. Okay, so now try to see the old lady. I'll show you. This is eye number 1. This is eye number 2. This whole thing is a nose, big nose. Whole thing is a nose. And this is the mouth. See, the mouth is slightly open. And that's a protruding chin. Now can you see? Old lady? Yeah? Anyone are not able to see old lady now? You're not saying old lady? See, okay. This is a nose. I'm coloring the nose here. See? Nose. This is the upper lip. This is the lower lip. That is an open mouth. When you open the mouth, see, I can see your mouth is black inside. You cannot see inside, right? So this is black inside. Black inside the mouth. This is the protruding chin. So it's a like little bit caricature. Not really. Nobody has that much of a protruding chin, but it's a caricature, right? This one is drawn. So the point is that when I'm pointing out that there's an old lady here, and you're able to contrast. Now you can see the young lady, and you can see the old lady. But what happens is, if you start seeing the old lady, now you're no longer able to see the young lady. And when you start focusing on the young lady, you're not able to see the old lady, right? And this is how this illusion works. And this analogy is applicable to us because we need some external help to help us see the position of Krishna. We cannot see ourselves because we are so used to seeing ourselves in the relative world. We are relating to everything as relative. We are not able to see that. No, there can be something absolute, the original cause of everything. Thank you for the reminder. Well, any other questions? Unborn? Although I'm unborn. Unborn is to differentiate between born. We all take birth, right? At some point, we were born. At some point. So, for example, I'll give you a reason why the word unborn, which may not be even a valid word, I'm not sure if it's a valid word in English dictionary, but when your truth is not accommodated by a language, sometimes these words are necessary, which are uncommon words. It may be there, it may not be there, but because of Prabhupada's books, it is now officially in our language for sure. Have you considered time travel as a theoretical phenomenon that many science fiction authors talk about, right? And then if you start considering a world in which time travel is possible, you have to go, let's say you're able to go in the future, right? Okay. Now, somebody who's in the future is referring to the present. They'll refer to it as a past, right? Because that person has gone to the future. But to you, it's the present. But what if you were to travel in the future and refer to your current as the past? Is that the present or the future, or what is it? You need a new word for it, right? So just like that, Krishna's position is such that there is no words in normal English dictionary. Krishna is existing, but he was never born. If you were to say, I was born on such and such a date, right? Prabhupada was born which year? 1896. Prabhupada was born in 1896, you can say. So all of us, we were born at a certain date. I exist means I was born. I cannot say I exist and I was not born. This table, even table was born, but it won't say it, right? It doesn't know how to say it. So, but Krishna is existing, but he was never born. So he's saying, I'm unborn. I was never born. And yet, I take birth. The word born is used because Krishna takes birth. He appears to be born. And to whom? To Devaki. As an ordinary child, he is born as first, of course, he appears as a 400 Vishnu form, but then he is born as a child. He could have born like Vamana Deva. How did Vamana Deva appear? Just like that, as a right. How did Narsingh Deva appear? Full-fledged adult form, right? But how did Krishna appear? Baby. He took birth, right? And yet he didn't take birth. He was unborn. The I is also unborn, but the body is born. And for Krishna, there is no difference between body and the I. He is the body, he is the I, he is the person.